Very much. Okay, so I'm Jamie O'Flanagan, no relation to Paul Flanagan, who just spoke, or Jamie Grossman, who spoke before him. I'm a hybrid of both of those guys. So Jamie's my name, and I work with a company called GameSparks. So before I get into the talk, I want to talk more about the history of games and game development and how it's kind of changed over time. I'm a big sports fan. A lot of developers and game developers don't really like sports, from my experience. Anyone I know don't like sports, but that's back in Ireland. Maybe it's different in the UK. But I'm a huge football fan. I'm a huge golf fan, and all various different other sports, from even American football and baseball and things like that. So those games they're hundreds of years old. Some of them a lot more recent than that, but a lot of them are really old. And what a lot of people fail to realise is they were developed by a group of guys who are maybe on a field one day with a pigskin ball and like, how can we make this some sort of competition and have fun doing it? So that's a thing a group of guys done, maybe 10, 20 guys done. They sat around and they planned it out, they made the rules, they done all these things that we're doing today, the exact same, building a document and putting it into practice, testing it. If it doesn't work, change the rule. Same goes for golf, same goes for all sports and all games. They've been doing this for years, centuries. Even like the first board game, I think it's recorded, called Senet. The first hieroglyphic in Egypt was in 31,000 BC. So you're going 5,000 years. People are developing board games and other games. You know what I mean? That's a long time. But the logic behind that hasn't changed of developing games. But the tools we have to use to make these games, they're changing all the time. That's evolving and changing on a day-to-day basis. There's free tools for developers now that weren't there 5 years ago. So there's a flood to the market because of that, because everybody's taking advantage of all these new opportunities that they have. And GameSparks is one of these things that takes all those problems and all the problems of modern-day game design and tries to provide a really optimal solution for that. So let's look at how game architecture itself is changing. So we have a lot of devices now that people are playing games on, and they're mobile devices specifically I'm going to talk about. The likes of Android devices or Windows devices or iOS devices. People are playing these games, but you also with these packages you have where you can get an upgrade every year of your phone. So you might switch from iOS to Android on a year-to-year basis. I don't know what your preference is, but a lot of people do that. So you've invested, let's say, 6 months playing this game that you love, and you're playing it on iOS and you absolutely love it. You have one of the highest scores in the world and you're like, great, this is brilliant, I have this super high score on iOS. I get an upgrade and I go to Android and you're starting from scratch again. And that's like, oh, Christ, I have to do this again. I've spent €5 on in-app purchases in this game. I'm not going to do that now. I'm not buying that again. That's a waste of time, waste of my money. I've put all this time in and now I'm frustrated and I hate that developer. What a jerk. You know, so we came up with this solution, and it's not ours, but we provide it as a solution for you guys to use. It's for cross-platform development. Our tool, GameSparks, lets you create a leaderboard. If you're number one on that leaderboard on iOS, you can be number one on the Facebook, or number one on a Windows phone, or number one on any of the devices that we cater to, which is pretty much all the popular ones at the minute. We do cater to PC and console as well, so you can have cross-platform leaderboards across pretty much anything. As well as that, things that are changing are the in-game revenue streams. I know people are talking a lot about monetization, and everybody has their opinion on what works. You know, some people hate that pay to win. Some people like it. You know, people that don't play games on a regular basis don't like the struggle of overcoming the challenge that a game provides you. So they're like, all right, grand, €1, and I unlock the next stage and I can win easily. Brilliant. But a lot of people like to earn that as well, and I would be one of those people. So I don't like that intrusive monetization. So a lot of people, or developers, are figuring out new ways of getting around that. A good example that I like, game I've been playing recently, is a game called Crossy Roads on the iOS. There's absolutely no intrusiveness into the way they monetize, but what they do provide is they provide ads. You know, if you watch them, you might unlock something that's random. It doesn't affect the game in any way. It just affects the aesthetics, maybe some different art or something like that. So you can watch them and you'll get some in-game currency. That's great. That suits me because I choose to watch it then, and then I'll get something for watching it. But if I don't want to watch it, I can just ignore it. As well as that, you can pay for these different aesthetic changes. Again, if you don't, it doesn't affect the gameplay in any way, and the game's still super fun to play. But if I want to change what I'm looking at, because I'm playing it 8 hours a day or something like that, I can spend 89 cents and unlock a completely new aesthetic. So that works for me. So these developers came up with that, and that's the first time I'd seen something like that in any of the games I've played. So that to me was a new way of monetizing, so a new revenue stream for these guys. So that's like, it's fantastic that people are doing that. So we're providing these solutions that let you incorporate any of these different types of monetization strategies. Other things that are changing over time is how people use multiplayer and social mechanics. The rise of Facebook in the last 7 years, the rise of Twitter, the rise of any of the big social networks, it's completely changing how people play games and how people play games multiplayer. So where you might think multiplayer is real-time Call of Duty shooting each other in real-time action in the same room, it can also be sharing your score to these social networks and challenging all your friends to beat that score. And what that will do for your game is actually increase your retention. And increasing retention is just going to increase the amount of money people spend in your game. The more people are playing your game, the more likely they are to spend. So that's a whole new way of looking at a multiplayer game. It's taken out of the old-fashioned multiplayer shooter type games and bringing it to a more social, like challenge-based multiplayer game, which is really interesting. And it's one of the big things that's come up since the rise of mobile devices. So going on from that, the emphasis on iteration and agility. Retention, again, you need to, for your game, it needs to be iterated on. You can't just launch a game anymore and just have this single product that you've released and then release a new game 2 years later. You need to keep the player engaged. So a good example of that is maybe daily challenges in your game or weekly challenges. A game I play a lot, Spelunky, has daily challenges where everybody gets to play the same level in the game. Whoever does the best on that maybe wins some in-app purchase or wins some new downloadable content. And that's really interesting to me that the developer on a day-to-day basis is continually working on this one game that they spent already 2 years developing. And what that's doing is increasing retention and therefore increasing the chance of maybe making some in-app purchases or something like that. So that, again, goes back to some different ways of getting some revenue into your company. So Peter Warman said, he's the CEO of Newzoo, said that all games will eventually run in the cloud. So what that means for us as a cloud-based provider is that every developer that's developing games will at some stage have to have some cloud functionality in their game. And that's because all these features I just spoke about are now coming into the iteration of the games. So people are going to have to release their game, they're going to acquire the players, and usually the old way of doing it, that's where it stopped. They'd acquire the players, their sales are made, that's done. Now people have to monetize their players. In doing that, they have to gather the data. What monetization is working? Is the level I released or that daily challenge I released, is that something people like or are enjoying? How many people played it? So we can track that data and then make changes to suit and then release it again. And this becomes a full circle. So you're constantly iterating in your game. And again, that's building on retention. So you're releasing new levels on maybe a month-by-month basis, new challenges on a day-to-day basis. And it's changing your monetization, it's gathering your data, you're making your changes, and you're going through that cycle again, building the retention for your game. So what are the reasons you'd want to do something like that? The first one, I hate this specific slide, but I have actually changed it, but I never sent the change over. But it's this money thing. You can't see the words, but anyway. So one of the reasons to do this type of thing with GameSparks is it costs less to do it. GameSparks lets you develop a lot of your game AI or your game-based logic on the server and push it out to all these devices at once. So rather than having various different version controls, like different branches for your game, one for Android, one for iOS, one for Windows, and one for maybe Facebook or something like that, you can just build it all on one branch and push all the information out to all the different devices at the one time. And what does that do? It reduces development time developing all the various different versions, and it reduces the time it takes to send an update to Apple. I mean, it takes, if I'm not mistaken, 8 working days for them to get back to you once you submit their game. I mean, that's a long time to wait to hear if your game's going to get accepted, and then it might not, might be rejected. So you can actually just push the information out through the cloud now, rather than going through their convoluted store process, and just get your information out there the day you publish it. So, I mean, that reduces development time, and it reduces the time you spend waiting to hear back the information. Is this game working? Is this new change working? All that is nearly instantaneous, and you can do it through our platform on a day-to-day basis. Another way to look at it is looking at your in-game revenue. I spoke briefly about the analytics and reporting and customer management. So again, tracking what your users are doing, tracking everything that they like in the game, things they spend time on. You might find some guy might spend 10 minutes playing through one level, and that's the same across the board. But the next level they only spend like 60 seconds and then they quit, maybe because it's too hard. Before you could never track that, and with our product, you actually can now. You can track all that information. It's all up to the developer what they choose to track, but it lets them track everything and change and release and monetize again. So again, it's going back to that full circle and building your retention to the game. Any free-to-play game, or if anybody has released one at all, you need to build your retention, because it's easy to get people playing the game, but the average user will delete the game after one play or just never play it again. So building retention is really the key, and you can do that through product management and analytics and reporting. So another reason, again, is going back to our social and multiplayer, and using your Facebook and your other social networks to either challenge your players or create new developer daily challenges and give rewards. I think Paul spoke a lot about doing like seasonal challenges and seasonal new updates to the game, and that can be a real pain to do when you're doing it like through the traditional way. But using a cloud-based service lets you do that instantaneous and get your feedback instantaneously as well. So you're easily able to change and adjust to suit in order to increase your monetization or increase awareness of your game. So, service thinking. Service thinking is thinking about your games as a service. You guys have spent maybe months, even years, developing your game, and what games are now is they are a service. They're a thing that the users use, and they want to see new updates and things like that. You need to be providing this to your subscribers, who are the guys who downloaded your app. These guys are looking at you for new content, new changes to the game. What's going to keep me playing this game? And you got to provide them with that service. So games as a service, it's a word or a phrase that's been floating around for a while, but it's an actual thing now, and it's really become prominent in the game industry at the minute. So it's definitely worth considering looking at your game as a service rather than just this fun thing that people are playing. I mean, I'm a big gamer myself, and I just want to play the game. So when I see these new updates, and as a consumer, I just see it as new stuff for the game that I'm playing, and it's great, and I love it. But as a developer and as a person with a business mind trying to make money, you need to keep these players engaged, and thinking of your game as a service is pretty much key to that. So the cloud pretty much democratizes the server side at the minute. So people are shifting away from the old way of doing things, so buying a server or renting a server on a month-to-month basis. That leads to various different technical issues or financial issues even, where you might get 1 million users on your free-to-play game and your server can't manage that amount of people playing at one time. So you got to worry then about the scaling costs and buying new servers on a month-to-month basis and checking your statistics, and is this going to crash now if I get 5 new players playing at the same time? Using the cloud takes all that information, all that worry away. GameSparks, if you were to use a service like us, would actually manage that scaling for you. So you're developing on our platform for completely free, by the way. You release your game, and you absolutely don't have to worry about if 6 million people download your game in the first day, because the cloud manages that scaling of the servers, and then you may incur your charges over time due to the amount of players you have, depending on what service you're using. But you don't actually have to worry about pre-buying these servers or pre-renting these servers on a month-to-month basis just to cover the fact that you might get 6 million users. Because you have to do that, right? If you're going to get 6 million users and that's what you're expecting in your head, you have to rent a server that's going to be able to manage 6 million users. You might only get 10,000, and now you're after spending $5,000 on servers you didn't need. So using cloud-based services reduces that risk you're taking when you're developing server-based games or multiplayer games. So, following on from that, these are the types of services GameSparks will provide. GameSparks lets you easily implement your in-app purchases, your achievements, leaderboards, virtual currencies. So maybe you want to have 6 different currencies in your game, from gold coins, silver coins, gems, experience points. And you can award all these to your users and manage your users really efficiently with GameSparks. So your daily competition that you just push to the cloud, what's the reward for winning that competition? You get 1,000 in-game currency to spend on new avatars or new customization for your avatar, or maybe even some unlockable levels. It really depends on how you monetize your game. But all that's managed through a tool like GameSparks. So does that really sound familiar? I mean, just looking at some of the stuff that's up here, have anybody developing a game came across any of these where they may need a database tool to manage their games, or they need to have a cross-platform leaderboard, or they need like to analyze like how to optimize the game. These are all things we've done from doing research with developers. What exactly are your requirements now? What do you need to get your game to work? And these are some of the frequently asked questions we've received. So we've designed our tool, our cloud-based tool, GameSparks, to service all these needs that people have these days. Like I said, games are changing on a day-to-day basis. So the tools we need to make these games are also changing. Updates to every game engine are coming weekly, monthly, you know, so the tools need to be evolved, and developers need to evolve with these tools to be able to manage what they're doing with their games. So going back to someday all games will run in the cloud. The likes of Supercell and King making Candy Crush, Supercell make Clash of Clans, may look at their servers that they own and just look at it as this big box that has all this storage space for the users to use. But for us, we want the developers just to look at servers as the executable when it runs. They don't have to worry about this down the bottom left hand side, this big storage space, this big room for servers that they need to that they need to build or rent or buy to have in their own office. All they need to worry about is making the game, making it as fun as possible. If they're looking to make money off the game, worry about that rather than worrying about the actual limitations of their servers and things like that. GameSparks is free to use. It's 100% free for any developer to sign up and play with, even release the game. Our general charges only come in when your game has 10,000 users per month. If your game has 10,000 users every month, what that means for you is you're going to be able to monetize that in some way, and ideally you want to be able to cover the cost of your service at that stage. But you're not going to have to pay anything if your game is a flop. So we're taking the risk away from any developer that's developing a game and putting it on us, which is fair enough, but what we're relying on is you guys will have the tools now to make your game a success and not have to worry about all the technical limitations that come with servers. You can focus on the fun parts of your game, the stuff that makes people play your game, the retention, and the whole design of the game rather than the servers. So we'll take the risk away from you in your development time and put it on us and go to launch with you guys, and in the end, hopefully you guys will be successful, and in turn, we'll be successful. GameSparks is built on Microsoft Azure. It's browser-based. You can use it from anywhere. You can push an update to the cloud from your iPad or your iPhone on the train going home. So if you have a new idea for a new daily challenge, just log into GameSparks on your phone and push it out to the cloud immediately. It's so convenient to use, and like I said, the benefit being free. It's great for indie developers, but the best thing about it is it takes the risk away from the developer and puts it on us. So this is the platform itself. It's a simple UI, and it's designed to be managed by anybody. So big studios may want to develop their game and release it, and then not have the developers continue to work on it when it comes to the monetization strategies and the marketing strategies. But they might have someone who's specifically hired to do that, maybe someone in marketing, something like that. So it's designed with a simple UI that allows anybody to be able to do it. A quick 2 hours training session will have somebody up and using GameSparks pretty handily, and being able to push all new data to the cloud and all new daily, weekly, monthly challenges. I speak about challenges a lot because retention is key, and the key to retention is new content for people to do. So if they have a new thing to do every day, it's going to make them play the game on a day-to-day basis and not just put it down after 4 or 5 tries. So yeah, I mean that's pretty much it for me. If anyone has any questions, feel free to ask me. We've a few minutes. I'm a bit short there on the time, so a few minutes. If anyone has any questions, and if not, you can find me on Twitter at JamieGameDev and have any questions for me then. That's fine as well. Thank you very much.